What are the biggest mistakes home buyers make during the construction phase?
I think one mistake is just kind of expecting everything to be set in stone and be very clear cut. You have to have your design selections picked out before the ground even gets broken. If your goal is a long-term investment or just buying a first-time home that you're going to sell in a couple of years. I believe buying new is always better. However, I realize if you want to be in the middle of downtown, you're not going to get a brand new build. So you have to think about what is most important. Is it a certain location or can you be in a suburb? Is that something that you'd like?
Have you guys ever wondered on how each stage of new constructions is being done? Well, today we're going to be diving deep into new construction. We have an expert, Katrina herself, a sales rep who's been working with several different new constructions. And we're going to be talking about each stage and the importance of each stage. Let's go ahead and get started. Thank you, Katrina, for coming by and talking about stages of new construction and letting my viewers know the importance of every stage and what the buyer should be expecting. I know I have lots of questions that I already got from my buyers and my future clients that are interested, especially in new construction. So guys, this is Katrina. She's amazing new construction sales rep, and I welcome you and thank you for being in our podcast. How are you feeling today?
I'm doing great, Rima. Thank you so much for having me. It's a privilege to be here.
Oh no, we are all excited. Okay, our first question, how long have you been doing new construction?
So I've been in new construction a little less than a year now.
Okay, what made you get into new construction?
I actually had clients, I was working in resale as a realtor, and my clients bought a new construction home. I was so impressed with the quality and just really wanted that industry education on what makes a new construction build.
And do you like it so far? Are you enjoying?
I love it. The education, the training has been wonderful. I love being able to know inside of a home and out, everything that goes inside of it.
That's wonderful. Well, I'm excited. Our first question we have is, what are the main stages of new construction?
This is a hot one. So they're a little bit general, but first we have foundation and then framing, and then we've got shingles, and then we have insulation, drywall, trim, countertops, and flooring. So those are very general, but that's a basic overview of how a home is built.
Okay, and now let's say you get a home buyer that's coming out. Is this pretty much explained to them and what the expectations would be from day one?
Yes, so we also provide a home buyer portfolio where they can look through the stages, and it's kind of like their homework. So instead of everything at once, it's like, hey, here's our guide to the home building process. And throughout the process, we're going to have meetings along the way where we explain what's going on at each stage of the process.
Oh, that's wonderful. And now, stages of the process, how long do you think each stage would take?
So it depends. I would say anywhere from a week to a couple of weeks. Just depends on the weather, if there's a delay in the shipment of materials, if it's the holidays and workers are traveling. So there's a couple of different variables, but I would say anywhere from one stage being from 1 week to just a couple of weeks.
I know before it was different on new construction from groundbreaking to the finish of the home. What is right now the norm of building the whole house? How many months is it?
So it really depends on the builder, the company, whether or not they're mass ordering materials. But I would say on average, it's between 7 to 9 months.
Okay, it was before, I think, was it shorter, or I think it was a lot longer before too, wasn't it?
Yes, because we had delays because for a couple of years there was the rising prices in lumber and then the delays in materials due to supply chain shortages. And so there's just so many variables and gears constantly turning.
Oh, I'm sure. Now, another question that we have is, what should homebuyers expect during the framing stage? Because I know that's also important.
Yeah, so that's where your home actually starts to look like a home, right? So you can walk through the rooms and see what the walls look like, and it starts to feel like a home. So you can expect the framing and maybe some paint marks on where some things are going to be as well.
Now, during the framing, do you have the home buyers come with their inspector or do anything on their end, or is it all the builders will be doing that as a city?
So we actually have over 24 inspections, and over 7 of them are third-party inspections. So throughout every stage of the process, we have inspectors coming for us, for the city, making sure everything is passed before we go along to the next step. So I like to have my home buyers come by and visit on the weekends whenever our trade partners aren't working, and then we can walk the construction, see what it looks like. Otherwise, during the week, it's a bit of a hazard with all the materials and maybe a nail falls. So anyways, we can come in and do visits on the weekend, but normally we do a bigger meeting every couple of weeks during the process.
And then each process, how often are the home buyers updated?
Every week.
Every week.
Yes, we do weekly phone calls, and then we also send email recaps of what went on during the phone calls.
Okay. And then I know during framing, it's also important for home buyers, especially for them to know later on. Do you recommend if they should do a video or save it or make sure where the, the high beams or the main walls are, right? If they ever wanted to restructure a house later on.
Right. Well, first of all, I always encourage my buyers to take videos and pictures during the process because I think it's fun. However, we do have videos and we have pictures done every week, updates through the process, and our buyers can access their buyer website and see all the photos from when it was first built all the way to the end. So even if someone buys a quick move-in that's stage 10, it's finished, they can log into their buyer website once they're under contract and see the photos from when it was in framing and save those pictures.
Okay, so not necessarily, because you guys will also do that behind if they forget, if they're not.
Yes, we actually have a third-party company that does it every single week. So it's like clockwork.
Awesome. Wow. So what are the common challenges in the new home construction?
Yeah, I think one challenge is just lots of different answers, right? And so you don't know what to expect because let's say we get freezing temperatures and it's 28 degrees, then you can't paint until it's above a certain point. And so just having that patience and knowing that there's a lot of different variables in the building process. And so just kind of taking an update with a grain of salt and being like, okay, I understand. And just understanding that there's a lot of factors like weather and trades that are outside of our control.
That's also about delays, right? If their time frame is saying, hey, it's going to be done in the month of May, and let's say it's delayed, then it's also a challenge.
Yes, like I said, due to weather, sometimes due to materials, sometimes if we have a shipment come in and it's slightly off and we have to order a new one. And most of the time it works great, but you have to set those expectations and have people be prepared. Hey, just in case, we can expect delays. There might be a delay based on weather, especially around the holiday season, so let's just set those expectations early. So in case a delay happens, no one is disappointed.
Has it ever been that it's been done earlier than what is expected?
Oh, yes. We run early a lot of the time. There's a lot of incentive to get done early. It's less overhead for us, and then you guys get in your home quicker.
Yeah.
And we also work really fast to get things done. So let's say our trade partners were on vacation, they were traveling during the holidays, no one was in the home for a week or two, then they're going to come back and be fired up and be going at it to get that home done as soon as possible.
Okay. I know during the COVID times, it was a little bit challenging for a lot of the buyers because that was a whole different time of construction phases. Some of the homes weren't getting done. The home prices were just going up than what was contracted under. So I think those were some other challenges they were facing at that time. Anything like that you guys have been facing now?
Yes. So a couple years ago, there was a lot of challenges with the rising price of lumber. And so the price of lumber basically tripled overnight. And so a lot of builders had to raise their prices in order to make up for that. Right now, we're facing current construction tariffs being introduced. They've been delayed 30 days, but you can expect the prices to all be increasing with those tariffs on imported materials. So that's something we can watch out for. So I've been telling people, hey, if you're thinking about buying, it'd be really great to lock in that price right now if you're building a home, and then you won't have to pay the down payment until closing, but you want to lock in that lower price earlier, get it under contract before all the prices go up.
Has it been already in effect, or do you think it's going to be coming up soon?
It's coming up in about 30 days. Yes.
Oh my gosh.
That's the most recent update.
What do you think? How much is going to go up, you think?
I've been seeing different estimates online, anywhere from 3 to 5%.
On the base price?
Yes.
Wow. Would it affect on the ones that are already under contract?
That's a good question. So no. So when people lock in their contract, like they're locked in for that price.
Okay.
However, if someone comes in the day after prices increase and decide they want to buy a home, they have that newer price because it's costing a lot more to build their home now.
That's true. Okay. Well, people that are thinking of buying, make sure you get the prices right now before they start rising.
Right.
Another question, obviously, it's a little bit common, but what is the role of a sales rep in a new construction?
Yeah, so very similar to a real estate agent, but the sales rep represents the builder, right? So it's our job to be the expert on our company and the process and be able to be there and let you know updates. So like I said, we make weekly phone calls. And so the sales consultant and our builders make weekly phone calls, update the buyers, let you know, hey, this is what we have coming up next. This is what's going on right now. Do you have any questions throughout this process?
Now, because a sales rep is from the builder's side, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily the home buyer may not have a real estate agent, or they may not even need it technically. But for you as a sales rep, do you see a benefit of a home buyer having one versus not having one?
Yes, I always say it's up to them, right? But I encourage people to have a realtor. But I also say if you're going to go with a realtor, make sure you go with a real estate agent who knows about new construction and at least just has sort of a brief overview on how it works, because it is different than resale.
Yes. One question that I get asked is, why do we need a real estate agent in a new construction home, right? Because we're going to be representing the home buyers.
Exactly.
Right? We're going to be another second eye on your new construction phases,
Exactly.
on what's happening. If there is any kind of mistakes, we're here to look out for that.
Exactly.
Now, other question is, what inspections are needed throughout the stages of home construction? I know we went a little bit over that beforehand, but how many are there?
Like I said, there's over 24.
Okay.
It depends by each city and what the city requirements are. But like I said, there's over 24 throughout each part of the process. And so, like I named the major stages of construction, there's normally a couple within there. Sometimes for higher density homes, there's also firewall inspections, especially for an attached product. We've got to make sure everything is right, especially in those higher density areas.
So let's say one of the inspection, they fail it. What happens then?
Then basically the builder would fix it, and then they would ask the inspectors to come back over, make sure it looks good, and then pass, because we can't move forward with construction until we pass inspection.
Now, is that also notified to a home buyer, or is it not necessary?
That's a
it
good
is failed.
question. Yeah, so normally we let them know, like, hey, we need to fix this here, or we need to fix this here. This electrical outlet was off by 1/2 inch, and we need to correct that before we move on.
I see. Okay. And how can buyers prepare for each stage? Like you said, you do weekly updates. Is that the only way that you make them prepare?
Yeah, so we give a home buyer portfolio. Like I said, it's a step-by-step guide through the entire process. And so it says here, this is what you expect during this meeting and through these stages. And so I encourage everyone to look at that portfolio, look through it, take some notes. I call it their homework.
Oh, no.
Because they can look through it and just sort of digest it a little bit at a time.
Okay. And what are the biggest mistakes home buyers make during the construction phase? What have you seen?
Right. I think one mistake is just kind of expecting everything to be set in stone and be very clear cut. Because like I said, there's a lot of different variables in building a home. There's a lot of different variables in construction in general. So just keeping an open mind and trying to be flexible. If you're able to do that, I think you're a perfect fit for building a home.
Okay. And what customizations? I know this is a big one.
Yes.
When they're asking, can they make during the home construction?
Yes. So this is actually a really important question. I can't speak on all builders, but from what I've seen is you have to have your design selections picked out before the ground even gets broken, because we do these orders far in advance. And so we've got to make sure that we order enough material in a bulk order. So long story short, you can pick out your design features, what type of tile and stone and backsplash and cabinets, all the things ahead of time. But once you make those selections, it can be very costly if you want to change anything. So word of advice, just make sure you are solid in the beginning when you pick those design selections.
Now, that's different. That's, starting a brand new construction home from day ground up. But if it's an inventory home, is there even an option of changing anything?
Not normally, no.
Okay.
Something I like to encourage people to do if there's any last minute DIYs they want to do after they move in, it's like attaching hardware on the cabinet doors, or if they just love the backsplash of the model home, I recommend, hey, here's the name of it. You can get some, and then after you close, you can do whatever you want.
Okay. So it's very hard for them to even do anything. Nope, not done, I guess.
Right, because it's a completed home, it's ready for move-in, and a lot of the time it's at a better price than if you were to build from the ground up and add all this customization.
If they did want it to do it, but you're saying it's going to be very costly, right?
Yes. Well, it depends because it's normally, I think, 3 to 8% of sales price, adding on those. But it depends. If you walk in and say, here's my budget, here's what I want to stick to, then you can make upgrades and pick your designs for a good price, right? But sometimes you walk in and you're like, oh my gosh, I love this granite and I love this and I love this. And then at the end of the day, you're like, whoa, I don't know if this is what I had imagined. So it's good to kind of set a budget and a price point ahead of time. Mm-hmm. And I would say even look for a home that the base price is under that budget because you've got your design features that's going to be added on as well.
And typically you see probably about 10, 15% count factor in for design options. Probably.
Well, it depends on the area, right?
Yes.
So if we're in over a 3,000 square foot home in like Dripping Springs, then that's going to be a higher price point than, let's say, Buda, where it's maybe a 2,000 square foot home, 1,500, a little bit lower price point. So I would say as you go into those higher price points with more rooms and more design, you can expect to be spending a little bit more in design.
Okay. And then how do new constructions delay affect the home buyers? We did talk about that. And what can they do about it? Is there anything that they can even do about it? Because some of them might be renting a house, right? Where that would affect on what they want to do, or they can't even, I guess, with the rental.
Right. So that's why from the very beginning, we try to set very clear expectations that we're not going to know an exact finish date until about 30 or 45 days out, but it normally is 7 to 9 months. So we give that 60-day window. Mm-hmm. So if they want to have an extra month of rent, they can, or if they want to extend their lease for a month, they can, or if they want to start asking around family 5 months in advance, hey, we might need to stay in your couch for a week or two, so just kind of being prepared in the beginning and making those changes ahead of time, just so it's not last minute and you're like, oh my gosh, what's happening?
Mm-hmm. Yes, because I have seen that happen before on some of the clients that were building, and they're panicking, like, we don't know what to do,
right.
We don't know when it's going to close. Mm-hmm. So that's one of the big questions that they were asking on. So
right.
I guess it's changing right now because the timeline is actually probably done earlier closing versus later on.
Right. Like I said, about 30 to 45 days out. So I would say within a month or two, you should know when you're closing.
Okay. And then what is a final walkthrough and what should buyers look for?
Right. So final walkthrough, we call it a home buyer introduction. It's where you walk through the home and you make sure everything looks amazing, ready for move-in. Everything is fully complete, right? Mm-hmm. And so I recommend looking for little areas that maybe us as builders don't always look for. Like I always say, sit on the toilet and look at the wall. You're going to notice something that we didn't. Yeah. You know what I mean? Or lay on the ground of your bedroom and look up at the ceiling, because these are spots that we always try to check, but sometimes it doesn't happen. Or look into the deep corner of your closet and make sure there's no settling lines. So just pay attention for those little tiny details.
And do you, I guess, third-party inspection for the final stages? Have you seen some buyers not even get those, or do you see most likely people do have a third-party inspection done?
Right. So we always share, hey, we've done over 24 inspections, over 7 of them are third party. Everything has to pass to keep going through the process. But if you would like to get an additional third party inspection, go ahead and do that. So what we find is most buyers with agents are encouraged to do a third-party inspection. And then some people with or without agents are like, okay, I think I'm interested. Or no, you know what? I've been here from the ground up. It looks amazing. I know it's passed over 20 inspections. We're good to go. I'd like to save that $700.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess it's a 50-50. Sometimes you might see it.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Now, leaning after that, home warranties. right? Because some of them may not get a third-party inspection right now, but also wait until their 11 months. Might be a better idea to do it at that time,
Right.
because most of the new construction builders have a warranty that would cover all of that, right?
Well, it depends. So most warranties don't cover cosmetic items. So we say if you scratch your walls moving in, or let's say your kid puts Hot Wheels down the toilet, we're not going to be able to fix that. However, we say within 1 year, basically everything that's working, right? So if you have a cabinet drawer that you pull it out and it doesn't work anymore, or if you have like a crack somewhere, then we can go ahead and fix that. It's just like a paint touch up that's, you know, not covered. It's mainly functionality of the home.
Got it. And that's explained in the final walkthrough on where they should be putting that in. And do they not have something like 30 days, or for some of the, I don't know, it might be different with each new construction builder, but once they move in, they have that 30 days to see if everything is functional. If there's something wrong, then you'll still fix it. Is that right?
Right. I mean, for us, we have a year.
A year.
So,
Okay.
Yes. So, like I said, if a drawer doesn't pull out right, or something functional isn't working, but we actually have our warranty managers do a warranty orientation.
Yes.
So about 1 to 2 weeks after they close, they have a one-on-one meeting with their warranty manager, and they walk through the process of, hey, here's everything that's covered in your warranty. Here's what you do in case of an emergency. Here's what you do if you notice something that needs to be fixed. And here you go. And then we also recommend everyone register their appliances as well with the third-party appliance warranties.
Okay. And what are the 3 biggest mistakes you've seen with the buyers when they're building a new construction home?
One is probably just not keeping an open mind, because that's a mistake, right?
Yeah.
Because if you walk in and you expect everything to be very cut and dry, neat and orderly, it's like you should buy a home that's already done, where you can just sign the contract and move forward in 30 days. If you can't handle, like, you know, the anxiety of waiting a couple weeks or a possible delay. So number 1, just keeping an open mind. Number 2, just being unsure about their living situation, because building a home is a big commitment, right?
Yeah.
And so you've got to be pretty sure, hey, I have a job here, I have a family here, like here, I want to be here, right? So I would just say being sure about it and making sure it's the right home before you go under contract, and not like rushing into anything. We don't see as much of that now, but we definitely saw a lot of that a couple of years ago.
Yes.
Number 3, I would just say to really do their research, compare the different builders, compare the quality, and just remember that a lower price does not always mean better quality, right? And so really look at what goes inside the walls, look at their energy efficiency ratings online, consider the inside of the home as well as the outside of the home.
Which leading to the next question is the importance of insulation in a home, right?
Yes. So I tell people all the time, you could have a brand new HVAC system, it could be amazing, but if your home isn't well insulated, all of that air is just going to be leaking out. So make sure you look into the insulation, see what type is used. New homes, it's great because new homes have new insulation, but if you're looking at an older home, it's important to look at the quality of the insulation and whether or not it's paper backed, seeing if that air seeps through and thinking, okay, am I going to be able to live with this? It's in a perfect location, but I'm going to have a little bit higher utility bill than if I were in a new build home.
With insulation, I know I have seen some of the buyers, with the ones that do get an inspection done, some of the time they comes, oh, this spot had missed some insulation in there. How would that be handled then?
Well, I'm sure they would just go and touch it up, you know? We use board and bats. And so, blown in bats insulation. And so we can cut a hole in the wall, take it out. It's kind of like cotton candy, or put more in, right? So blown in bats insulation is great because you have that flexibility. Whereas spray foam insulation, if you need to get back in that wall to fix something, you're carving out all that extra styrofoam. So it's always good to look at blown in bats because it's a lot easier to remove in case you need to make a fix like that.
Okay, so there's still 2 different types of insulation. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
There's blown in bats and there's also spray foam.
And it depends which builder is using which.
Yes.
Okay. For you guys, you're using the blowing bats.
Yes, we're using blown in bats. It's also called bibs sometimes.
Okay. Okay. Well, I didn't know that. That's something that I'm learning. There's 2 different types of insulations that they can choose from. So you would say better is the one is the blow-in bats to make sure that go with that one?
Well,
Maybe.
they're both really good. They both have their pros and cons. And just to clarify, they don't choose their insulation, but different builders use different insulation in different areas. Spray foam is really good insulation because it's extremely airtight, right? But I heard the story the other day of someone that had a gas leak, not with my company. It was some random story, but they had a gas leak. They had super tight spray foam insulation, and I think lightning struck their house. This is like a random, but yes. And so part of their home like caught on fire and all of these things. And it was just like, that's when maybe a little less airtight insulation might have been good. But like I said, there's pros and cons to both. So for spray foam, it's very airtight. You're going to save a lot. But if you need to get inside the wall for any reason, you can't see behind that. You're going to have to dig it out and then respray. Whereas blown-in bats, you could just take it out, put it back in. However, it's not going to be as airtight as the spray foam.
Wow. Okay. That's a lot of information right there for people to look into. Now, leading on is great information. Thank you for sharing all of that. Now we're going to be ending with more of a rapid fire questions.
Okay.
Quick one sentences and see what you're thinking about it. What is the most exciting stage of new construction for buyers?
Framing. They can look around the home, walk around, and it starts to feel like a home.
Wonderful. What's the most common mistake home buyers make? First-time home buyers.
Not being okay with potential changes in the process or just not being flexible.
Okay. How often do construction timelines get delayed?
Very often.
Should buyers get involved in every stage of construction?
They should get involved as much as they want to.
What's one thing every buyer should know about new construction?
Timelines can vary.
Is it better to buy a new build or resale in the long run?
Depends on your goal. If your goal is a long-term investment or just buying a first-time home that you're going to sell in a couple of years.
Okay. Anything else you might want to add on?
I believe buying new is always better. However, I realize if you want to be in the middle of downtown, you're not going to get a brand new build. So you have to think about what is most important. Is it a certain location or can you be in a suburb? Is that something that you'd like?
Okay. Well, thank you. Really appreciate you being on our podcast and talking about the stages of new construction, the different phases. And if anybody has any questions, please comment them below and then we will get those answered. Thank you.
Thank you, Rima.
Okay.